The most dangerous manipulation isn't obvious. It feels like care, logic, or even love. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. So in this video, I'm going to show you 7 manipulation techniques that people use in everyday life. And once you recognize them, you'll start seeing them everywhere. More importantly, you'll be able to protect yourself from them. 1. Gaslighting. Gaslighting is when someone slowly makes you question your own perception of reality. It's not just disagreement. It goes much deeper than that. It's when someone makes you feel like your thoughts, your feelings, or even your memories are wrong. For example, you might say, "Hey, what you said earlier really hurt me." And instead of acknowledging it, they respond with something like, "That never happened," or "You're just overreacting," or "You're way too sensitive." At first, you might push back, but over time, if it keeps happening, something changes. You start second-guessing yourself. You start wondering if maybe you misunderstood things. Maybe you are overthinking. Maybe you are the problem. And that's exactly the goal. Gaslighting is not about winning an argument. It's about slowly breaking your confidence in your own mind, so you begin to rely on the other person's version of reality instead of your own. 2. Guilt tripping. Guilt tripping is one of the most common forms of manipulation because it uses emotion instead of logic. It's when someone makes you feel bad in order to control your decision. Imagine you say no to a request. It could be something simple, but instead of respecting your decision, they respond with something like, "After everything I've done for you?" Or, "Wow, I didn't expect that from you." Or even, "I guess I'm just not important to you anymore." Now, suddenly the situation is no longer about your decision. It becomes about your character, about whether you're a good person or not. And that creates emotional pressure. So instead of doing what you truly want, you end up doing what removes that uncomfortable feeling of guilt. Not because you agree, but because you want the feeling to go away. 3. Silent treatment. This technique doesn't use words at all. It uses silence. And that silence becomes the pressure. Instead of communicating or explaining what's wrong, the person completely withdraws. They stop replying. They ignore you. They act like you don't exist. At first, you might think they just need space. But when it continues, something changes inside you. You start asking yourself questions. What did I do? Why are they acting like this? How do I fix this? Without realizing it, you shift from being calm to being anxious, from being confident to seeking their approval again. Eventually, you might even apologize, not because you understand what went wrong, but because you just want the discomfort to stop. That's how silence becomes control. 4. Love bombing. This one is especially dangerous because it doesn't feel negative in the beginning. It feels incredible. Someone gives you intense attention, affection, and validation very quickly. They compliment you constantly. They make you feel special, important, and deeply valued. It feels like you found something rare. But then, without warning, that energy changes. The attention decreases, the warmth fades, and suddenly, you're left wondering what happened. So what do? You try to get it back. You put in more effort. You become more invested. You start chasing that same feeling you had at the beginning, and that's where the manipulation happens. Because now, your emotions are no longer stable. They depend on the other person, and whoever controls your emotional highs and lows controls you. 5. Playing the victim. This technique is subtle but powerful. Instead of taking responsibility, the person flips the situation in a way that makes them look like the one being hurt. For example, you confront someone about something they did. Maybe they were dishonest, or maybe they crossed a boundary. Instead of addressing it, they respond with something like, "You always blame me," or "I guess I'm just a terrible person," or "Nothing I do is ever enough for you." Now the focus shifts completely. Instead of discussing the issue, you're now trying to comfort them. You might even start apologizing, even though you were the one who was originally affected. The problem never gets solved. It just gets buried under emotion. 6. Twisting facts. This is when someone changes the story just enough to benefit themselves. They don't fully lie, but they don't fully tell the truth either. They might leave out important details, change the order of events, or shift blame in subtle ways. So when you try to understand what actually happened, everything feels unclear. You feel confused, And when people are confused, they are easier to control. Because clarity gives you power, and confusion takes it away. That's why this technique is so effective. It doesn't attack you directly. It slowly removes your ability to see things clearly. 7. Creating urgency. This technique is used everywhere, not just in relationships but in business, sales, and everyday situations. The idea is simple. Pressure someone to make a decision quickly. They might say things like, "You have to decide right now," or "This opportunity won't last," or "If you don't act now, you'll lose it." This creates urgency, and urgency creates stress. When people feel rushed, they don't think carefully, they react. And when people react emotionally instead of thinking logically, they are much easier to influence. Manipulators don't want you to slow down. They don't want you to think clearly. They want you to decide quickly, before you have time to question anything.